Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. With the voice, Milt Thompson. Delivering the best of sports programming. Interviews with top celebrities. And the answer to the question, where are they now? And now, Milt Thompson, Playing for Keeps.
Good evening and welcome again to another version of Playing for Keeps. And I am your host, the voice, Milt Thompson. And thank you so much for participating, turning in, already appreciating the kind comments we're getting about this new direction. We're doing it at WHMB Channel 40. As you know, family station with all the wonderful Christian values that we have that operate around here. And I'm so delighted that they told me to dust off the old makeup kit, Milt, and we're going to get you back on television. And we're going to get back on television talking about some of the old sports stories that you've been familiar with. And once a month, as it is this week, we're going to have a show devoted to Where Are They Now? And boy, do we have a special guest for you today that we're going to tee up and talk to you about it. But come in every week at 9 o'clock on the evening time, and it's going to be followed up by a basketball show, and then after that it'll be the regular game of the week, be it in football or in basketball. So you'll want to be able to get your entire sports lineup right here on Channel 40. Well, where are they now? I told you we would bring you celebrities that would be recognizable to you, folks that you would have heard of before and you know about. But sometimes you just want to know what happened to them. Are they still around? Are they doing something in the community? Are they helping people? Are they, unfortunately, sometimes not doing very much in the community? And have they squandered their wealth? Have they squandered their reputations by doing things that we wouldn't have ourselves even think about doing? But oftentimes you'll find those that have changed their life or converted their life or helping change and convert other people's lives. That is who we're going to have on this show today. And we're going to bring to you the irrepressible, unbelievable one, at least the one in my view. That's going to be Ray Tolbert. And we're going to talk to Big Ray right when we come back here on Playing for Keeps.
Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube.
Welcome back to Playing for Keeps, and I am your host, the voice, Milt Thompson, here on WHMB Channel 40. And thank you already for showing up for this show. We're going to spread the word to all of our sponsors, and you're going to use and take care and use their products and services. And you're also going to tune in here every Friday evening and watch this unbelievable show, because we're having the best of sports programming that you're going to find. Used to do it a long time ago, didn't do it for a while. I think I missed it, because you know what? I get to get back together with the important people, not only in my life, but also in the world of the city of Indiana, state of Indiana, Indianapolis, when it comes to real life sports. And one of those irrepressible ones, and where are they now, is Mr. and Reverend.
No, just pastor.
Reverend?
Just pastor.
Pastor, okay,
Yeah.
All right. Pastor Ray Tolbert. Ray, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Man, it's so good to see you.
It's a blessing to be here, and thank you for inviting me, and you and Kelly and WHMB. I'm very proud and honored to get a chance to talk about Where Are They Now. I'm here right now.
You're here right now.
By the grace of God.
Oh, by the grace of God, and we're so delighted to see you again, man. We've got some history.
Yes, sir.
And I know you're probably going to tell on me, and but
A little.
The good news, I'll have to tell back on you. So,
I understand.
so we'll just have to keep that banter to us.
I'll keep it family oriented.
Okay, there you go. Well, once upon a time, there was this young basketball player from Anderson.
That's a good word, once.
I said young.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A young basketball player, but he was skilled, very gifted basketball player. And people wanted him all over the place. And we wanted him all over the place. And his name was Ray Tolbert. And Ray, tell us about those high school days and the awards that came your way and how that cleared out a path for your future.
I'll condense it as short as I can. Grew up in Anderson, Indiana. There was a lot of things going on back then, back in the 60s, 70s. And I was 6 feet tall in the 6th grade. So it was inevitable that I was going to play basketball. But my brother, who was the great athlete, I kind of, followed him. He was a football player, baseball player like yourself. And of course, eventually I started growing. I couldn't do well in baseball because they wanted me in the outfield. So I didn't like the outfield. There was no action. I said, put me at first base or shortstop or third base somewhere. But I was bored. So I went on and started playing basketball and got pretty good. I got beat up a few times, my brother, my cousins, and everybody. But eventually, I started to figure it out. And so by the time I was a freshman, well, I take that back. By the time I was in the 7th grade, I was dunking a basketball. And I knew right then that this was something special. And so, of course, we had the rivalries, Anderson High School, Anderson Highland, and Anderson Madison High School, which was my high school, which is now all one high school now. I don't know why, but that's another story. So I got to the point where when I was a sophomore, I was coming off the bench. And one of the starters for our high school team, Phil Buck, rest his soul, he was our high school coach. And there's another young man named Kirk Marillion, who was also a teammate who's no longer with us. But he had went to the coach and said, Coach, you need to start Ray Tolbert because even though I'm a senior, I think he needs to play more. And he says, well, because Coach Buck always believed in doing things the right way as far as your grade level and where you were, but he knew I was special. And so for me, it was great because I just wanted to play. You could start me, whatever you want to do, as long as I was in the game, I was happy. And so I started honing in on my skills from there. And the rest is history. Won a state not a state championship, but a sectional, 2 sectionals, 2 regionals, semi-state, I got close. But I always wanted to be a state champion, Milt, but I never got to that level. But when I went to IU, things changed, and of course, the rest was history from there.
You had some individual awards, though.
Well, yeah, Big Ten. Well, back in high school, I was Mr. Basketball.
Mr. Basketball. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. I was trying to give him the short version.
Just a few individual awards. I was Mr. Basketball. I think
1977, Mr.
you.
Basketball. Of course, I was MVP of my team, and I was parade All-American, McDonald's All-American,
Right.
slam dunk champion. There's a lot.
Then you're getting recruited to the big boys now. Right?
Well, yeah. Well, what people don't know, Purdue was my first choice, but there was a couple guys that really we didn't get along in the All-Star games, and so I elected to go down to see Bobby Knight. And I was a scorer. I was a Magic Johnson type player. I was going to go to Michigan State. I was going to go to UCLA. I was going to go everywhere else. But my mother said, no, you're going to stay here in Indiana.
Unilateral choice.
And so, honoring my mother and my father, I stayed close to Indiana, close to home.
Right.
And so I went down to Bloomington, and then I met some great people, Tony Prather, yourself, and others. And it took me a while to learn the cultures of different cultures because I never hardly left Anderson. Being from a town that's predominantly, factory oriented and didn't really know anything but just hard work. But it carried over to basketball. But as I got a chance to go to IU, of course, we won the Big Ten championship a couple of years with Isaiah Thomas, Mike Woodson, and all those guys. Phil Eisenbarger, wherever you are, Phil, I know you're going to be here soon. So it was a great time. I really enjoyed it was challenging with Bobby Knight, of course. But winning superseded everything.
Well, I tell you, I'll never forget my long drive out to Philadelphia. And
wow, that's
being
right.
out there at the Spectrum, and Ronald Reagan being shot in the day and not even
That's
knowing
right.
if they're going to have the final game.
Absolutely, right.
A controversy about Bobby Knight and LSU and all the things that going on about in the heyday. We remember it.
Yes, sir.
But then along comes the game.
Yes.
And you guys are down to North Carolina a little bit. And what happens after that before you?
Well, we were in the locker room when all this was happening, and Coach Knight had us in there. We had a meeting. We was in there for like a couple hours. Everybody was still stretching out, preparing just in case we were to play. But I was like, listen, man, if President Reagan is okay, let's play. Because I think people need something to get their minds off of that, because that was something serious, because President Reagan was doing some good things for a lot of people. Everybody seemed to gravitate towards that, and we were real concerned. But I'm thinking in the other locker room, James Worthy,
No doubt.
Tony Black, and you
Right.
got Sam Perkins,
Right.
and all these great players, and of course the great one, the wizard of them all, the coach, Dean Smith, and so we were focusing on that. And so Bobby Knight bust through the doors. He said, "Okay, boys, we got a game," and we were like, "Let's go."
Let's go.
And so,
I'll never forget that game. I think Whitman busts the corner jumper, and then,
halftime.
then by that time, I remember early game season against I think it was North Carolina, and Isaiah flies down the middle of the lane, and he misses a dunk. But I said, uh-oh, I think Bobby Knight's going to take the training wheels off of that young man. And by this time, halftime of the national championship game, the training wheels are off, and he went
berserk. I'll use that word.
He went off.
Yes.
He went off. What was the feeling like to be a national champion?
Well, to be honest with you, Milt, I felt very proud. I felt like I accomplished something. And the funny part about it was I knew that Bobby Knight wouldn't be able to yell at me no more. So I was done with that.
Done with that, right?
So I was happy. I was proud. And I looked up in the stands. I saw my mom and my dad. That was something that was special to me. You know, we couldn't really afford a whole lot back then, but, you know, my dad worked hard. My mom was able to go. And at the time, I remember that when Wayne Radford was living, his mom, Hattie, and my mom became good friends. And so they were all there. And I thought that was just a great gesture to see them in the stands. And, of course, my high school coach, Phil Buck, at the time was there. So everybody was celebrating. But also what people didn't know was there was a transit strike. There was a transit strike during that time as well. Sorry about that.
Yeah, there were those were some times, and if you really think about where those times were, you Jimmy Thomas off of that team, ran into a young lawyer who thought he wanted to be an agent, and had already begun to represent a couple of young baseball players, and
Grand Slam Incorporated.
Yes, and we struck up a relationship.
Can I tell people how I first met you?
Please do.
All right.
Please, folks at home, now, you take this with a grain of Raytover salt.
No, it's all good. And I can't remember in the Grandview area where you used to stay.
Right.
And I remember it was at the time, it was you, I think Susan, Macy Lee, and a friend of ours, Tony Prather, had invited. I said, well, man, listen, I need a lawyer. I need an agent. He says, well, I know somebody. I said, well, who? He said, well, Milt Thompson. I said, Milt Thompson? Who's that? He says, just come. He's going to invite us to dinner. Well, lunch, dinner, brunch, whatever it was.
Right.
And so when I got there, I walked in the house and I heard this, hurry up, because we got to go over here and get my steaks. And we got to get my baked potatoes out here. And I'm like, man, whose voice is that? And I was gravitated towards the voice, right? And all of a sudden, Tony said, hey, Ray, this is Milt. Nice to meet you, Ray. I'm like, man, I love this guy's voice. I said, one day he's going to be on radio or television or something, and I'd be doggone. Here he is.
There I am.
And so I remember those New York strip steaks and those specially made baked potatoes you put together. I was like, he sold me on the food.
So next time you want to be an agent out there, folks, go get the next big athlete that you can find and feed him some food.
Yes, sir.
Then you're drafted, and then you go through some succession of things and to Italy. And
I wrote a book about that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna read about
that. That's part of it.
We're gonna get part of that book here in a moment. But I remember getting a call from Jerry West.
Yeah.
Jerry West says, we want Ray to go and play with Magic Johnson.
Here's what happened in a nutshell. I was overseas in Italy playing for Pepper Mestre, which is a great situation. You know, had great kids, great ambiance, all that. The fans were fantastic. But I wanted to be in the pros. You know, I'm an NBA player, first round draft. And so after Detroit let me go, they paid me twice. Well, they paid me double my salary. And, I didn't know. I didn't have Milt Thompson to work on that. But when I went overseas, you guys took care of me. And I came back, and I got a chance to go to New York with the Knicks. And I was with them for quite some time. And then so after when somebody gets hurt, 10-day contracts, 20-day contracts, make good contracts, and that was me. And so after that, I had to come back home. And about 2 days later, I got a call. Ray, hey, this is Milt. Are you ready? You got your bags packed? I'm like, no, Milt, I just got home. He says, well, the Lakers want you. I'm like, say what? Man.
He said the Lakers wanted him. Not only did the Lakers get him, he is now sporting another ring from that.
I don't have him, though.
We're going to come back and talk about his book, his co-author in that book, and we'll spend a few more minutes with the irrepressible where are they now, Ray Tolbert, and the things he's doing right now as the pastor. We'll be right back on Playing for Keeps.
That's great, man.
Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube.
Welcome back to Playing for Keeps, and I am your host, the voice, Milt Thompson. We have been having a good time getting caught up with old times. I think most of them are true. With Pastor Ray Tolbert, the bishop.
Thank you, sir.
Has all kinds of stories about where are they now. We know that he's here in the northern central Indiana studios. We know that part. And we know that he's responsible for being a co-author with this book right here. And I'm going to have him tell us, right after he tells us about the rest of that story, about the Lakers.
Okay.
And about that story. Then we're going to get right back into some of the things he's doing right now.
Well, actually, Milt, when I got with the Lakers, at first, Jerry West called me out there, and he wanted me to try for a team from China. And so, for some reason, I was sick that day. I don't know if it was the food I ate the night before or whatever.
Wasn't in my house.
No.
Okay,
Your food was excellent. This is long after that. But so I had some hotel food, I think. And then I went to the gym. It was at the Forum. And I couldn't make a free throw. I couldn't make a layup. I couldn't hardly dunk a ball. And you know, I had skills back then. But I think it was the good Lord's way of saying, you're not going to China, but I got something for you. So I was all depressed, kind of like, man, I can't, something's ain't right. Something's not right. And so the representatives from China said, well, no, we don't really want him because he's a good size and everything, but he just doesn't fit our program. And so that evening, Jerry West called me back. He says, Ray, I see some good things in you. I knew you wasn't feeling good. He said, but I got an offer for you. Why don't you sign with us? And then, for the rest of the season, because I think at the time, Michael Cooper was going through it was Billy Thompson and Jeff Lamp. Those guys were hurt and they couldn't play. So I came in there and signed for the rest of the season. And so I played about 13 games. We won a championship. I was right there. And it was such a blessing, such an honor. And believe it or not, my number was 34. So I was before Shaq. But I didn't have Shaq's number.
But what he doesn't have that you have is a national championship.
And?
Well, a national championship.
Yes, sir.
At Indiana,
yes, sir.
Mr. Basketball from the state of Indiana.
Yes, sir.
And he does
Big
have
Ten MVP.
He's got the Big Ten MVP.
Yes, sir.
And he may or may not have the Lord, but you
does.
have.
You know I do.
You have the Lord.
Yes,
so
sir.
Tell us about that from your parents and their ministry and how that has broadened your respect not only for them but for all those folks that are professing.
Yeah, I believe that God put me in this position for a special reason and a purpose. We all have purposes in life. And so as I was growing up, I grew up in church. Of course, I play piano, drums, guitar, bass. I sing a little bit. Maybe not like you.
Well, we can duet them with someone these days.
And so I gravitated towards that. And then when I got to the Lakers, I wasn't playing a lot. And then one day, A.C. Green invited me out to a breakfast. And he asked me two questions. He says, well, Ray, do you know God? I said, yes. I grew up in church, play instruments, and sing in the choir. I came here when I was about 10 years old and sung with a choir here with WHMB. And so then he asked me the second question that really literally changed my life. He said, do you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ? I was like, wow. I said, I won rings, I won championships, I got all this, but I don't have a personal relationship. And so that changed me completely. And from that day on, I started really getting into the Word, getting into my ministry, getting into what my mom and dad had instilled in me. And so now I've been preaching for over 20 years.
Well, you've been preaching with word and verse,
Yes.
and you've also been preaching through the written word.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about.
Well, my good friend here, Terrell Sarver, he's the guy that actually the managing editor of this book. And the 7 guys that we wrote a book, all tell about our testimonies. And of course, Terrell gives a little bit about his testimony where he was in a coma for like 8 days, I believe it was. He can tell you more about it in the next show, but the Lord led him to do this. And he asked me, would I be a part of it? I said, well, sure. If I can reach the masses by telling them about how God has been good to all of us. I mean, we've all had some stories that we can tell, but my story was going overseas and getting to know God all over again. So now I tell people everywhere I go about the Lord Jesus Christ and about what I believe in, about there's hope for a calling that everybody has, and I'm hoping that everybody will get the chance to go to where he is after we leave this earth. So there's two places you can go, Milt.
Yep, I understand.
With him or without him.
Yep.
And that's the nice version.
I pay my insurance dues. I put in my insurance
Yes, sir.
policy on the
Yes,
dollar,
sir. Yes, sir.
and that's why I don't have any trepidation
Right.
about explaining.
You accepted the
what
Lord
direction-
Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, brother?
Exactly.
Sorry
So,
about that.
so there's platforms that we all operate
Yes,
from.
everybody has different levels.
Different
Yes.
platforms, and we're using this platform and this
Right.
show right here to be able to engage people and what did our good friend Jeff Smullian say about sports? He said it's the opiate of Americans.
Yes.
I mean,
We don't judge people, we just love people.
Exactly. And last week's show, we had Ryan Vaughn, head of
Yes.
the Sports Corporation. He was talking about how we galvanize around
Yes.
the water cooler.
Yes.
We may not even like each other. We may be polarized and against one another. But
Right.
guess what? How about those Pacers last
Yeah,
night? Or,
yeah,
well, what do you
yeah.
think about them Colts? Or what do you think about IU and Purdue?
Right, right.
So it's part of our DNA. And I've been blessed to have some platforms to be able to,
Yes, sir.
offer and help other people.
Yes, sir.
And
And I was one of them. I thank you.
Well, I believe that
And
is
congratulations
simply
too,
goes,
by the way.
Oh, well, that's a most humbling thing.
Yes,
I think
sir.
he's talking about the Whistler Award. And,
Yes, sir.
And I was beginning to tell you the story about my brother, who you know,
Harold.
11 years my
Yes.
senior.
Yes, sir.
That he went down and he had some things to say about his younger brother. And he said, there's three things about you, little brother.
Yes.
He said it much better than me, because when I hear him say it and I see it on the video tribute
means a
what's going to
lot,
happen,
man. Yeah.
I mean, I know that I'm going to cry, but he
It's
says,
okay.
he says you have integrity, you have faith, and you have compassion.
And you've been the same since I've known you.
Exactly right. Then he said, and you work hard. So if you've got those kind of things and you have the kind of platform,
Yes.
You may have talent, but people use their talent for
Other reasons.
wrong reasons.
Yes, yes,
But if you can use your talent to elevate and to lift others,
exactly.
you find yourself, where are they now? You find yourself on playing for keeps.
And I like what you said about playing for keeps, but with me, I'm praying for keeps.
Do we have a we're coining another name? We might have to have a sub-segment
Bro, you know
of
me.
the show.
You know me.
We'll be playing for keeps, and we just may be praying for keeps.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to be praying that we can keep this show rolling
Oh,
here.
you
So,
will.
so folks,
Trust me.
keep on listening out there. Keep on
We
sending in
speak that
your,
into
your
the atmosphere,
cards
brother.
and letters.
It's
and
gonna happen.
Get out in social media and spread the good word.
Yes, sir.
No
Amen.
matter where you are.
That's
We're
right.
so delighted to have you in our studio in our first set of shows.
Thank you, sir.
Big Ray Tolbert.
I'm honored.
We're honored to have you here, and I want you all folks to tee this show up, tee this particular show up. Get it out to your friends on social media and otherwise, because I want everyone to hear the ministry of Pastor Ray Tolbert.
And I'm in Anderson, Indiana, by the
He's in
chance.
Anderson, Indiana. If you're up there, go
Miracle Faith
worship,
Temple.
go
Yes, sir.
worship with him.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us this week. You come right back here next week at 9 p.m. on WHMB Channel 40, Playing for Keeps, the business of sports, with the voice, Bill Thompson.
I love it. I love that voice.
Good evening, everyone. We'll see you here next week.